I'll talk you through the plugin settings. On the main settings page, the general tab, we've got document data. So adding documents is very much like adding posts or pages in WordPress. So your document library comes with certain fields for each document, such as the title, a content area, a featured image, and so on. And some of these are optional. So if you want to really simplify the page in the admin where you add the documents, you can untick anything that you don't want. I'm going to keep everything active so that you can see what's available in the plugin. And if you want to create extra fields, you can actually install a free custom fields or taxonomies plugin and add custom fields and taxonomies, which allow you to store extra data about your documents. So let's say you wanted to add a publisher because you're listing ebooks or publications of some sort, then you could install a free plugin and add a field to your documents, which we'll use to store the publisher. And if you look in the Document Library Pro documentation, we've provided full instructions on how to add extra custom field types for your documents. And for this course, though, I'm just going to use the built-in fields to show you what the plugin does straight out of the box. So we click Save Changes, and then I'm going to go to the Document Libraries tab. So to give some context, we're in Documents Settings here. This section is all added by the Document Library Pro plugin, and we go to the Document Libraries tab. Here we've got a page which will automatically list our documents. You can select a different page if you want to list them somewhere else. It doesn't really matter, but that page has been created for you. You can also choose whether to display the document library in folders. And just to remind you, but think back to the demo, this is the folders option, where if you've got categories, it will display them within folders and subfolders like we saw. If you do not tick the folders option, then it will just be a simple table, and you can add filters and so on as you choose. So that's the folders option. I think I won't bother ticking that. And you've got some columns. This links you through the documentation, so you can see what columns are available. Here we've got the title, the excerpt, which is a brief summary of the document, the categories, and a link to actually access the document. So I'll leave it with the default for now. Actually, I might add something extra. Let's add file underscore size and file type. I'll show you the full range of what's possible. So file size, file type, and you put a comma between each one. You don't need to remember all this syntax, just use the read more link. Image size, I'll skip through most of these because they're self-explanatory, and I'll just focus on the ones that are particularly interesting for displaying documents. I'd say the most important settings are the document links, because that's how people access your documents. You can have a button. I'll show you the demo again. This is a button, obviously. And so if you want people to be able to click on a button, let's do it now. So I'm going to click download, and this is going to open a PDF, depending on my browser settings. If my web browser was set up to download PDFs automatically, then that would just download them to my computer. But because my PDFs are opening in a browser, I'd have to click download here. This is about the user's web browser and not the plugin. So back to the document library, I'm there. And so that's a button. And we also have icons if we go back into this table. So this is an icon. So again, let's go into this spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on that. Oh yeah, it doesn't open because I can't open spreadsheets in my particular browser. So what I could have done then is to right click. Again, this is dependent on the user's browser. If you want something that everybody can open, I'd recommend PDFs. So back to the settings. So button is what we saw. Button, you have file type icon or a text link. And whether you have a button or a text link, you can actually change the text here. So if you want to write read more or view or whatever, you can put that here. You can also choose which columns are clickable to access the single document page. So I'll show you what that means here. Let's go to a document, that'll do. So here I'm going to click on the title of the document, and that's going to take me to a separate page for that document, which, as you can see, has various data about the document and the download button that we also saw in the table. So you can choose certain columns that will click through to that. and you can also disable that completely. So if you don't want people to have a separate page they can visit for each document, then just type none in clickable columns like that, none. But I'll leave them for now. You can choose whether clicking on the button or icon, so that's this column, will open the document directly, which is what we saw a minute ago, or whether it will force people to access the single document page first. And you might want to open links in a new tab. That's quite popular with document libraries. If you have lots of documents in each table on your site, then you should enable lazy load, because that prevents any performance problems. So it means you can literally list many thousands of documents without any slow load times or anything. So lazy loads for if you've got lots of documents. I'll skip a few, self-explanatory, and we'll go to the filters. Filters are really useful because, as we saw on the demo site, where are they? There they are. You can have multiple filter drop downs above the document library, which people can use to very quickly find particular documents. So filters are great. If you've got either categories or tags in your table as columns, then if you click show based on columns in table, then they will appear as filter drop downs as well. But I generally recommend using the custom option. And you can just copy this here to make it easier. So even if you haven't got a categories column in your document library, you can have a categories filter. And again, if you add a comma and then tags, you can have tags as well. So if I would say, if you're not using the folders option, you probably want filters. If you are using the folders option, then it depends on how many documents are in each table. So you could have the filter drop downs above the table within each folder if you want to. If you've got hundreds within each category, then definitely add some filters to narrow it down by tags or whatever. But if you've just got a small number, then don't bother. You can also choose whether or not to have the search box and so on. But I think for a document library, you'd normally use most of the default options. You can also customize the design of the document library. I'm not going to bother because it automatically adapts to suit your theme and looks good pretty much out the box. But if you want to do things like add a coloured header row to the document library or something like that, then you can do. So I'm going to leave it with the default and click Save Changes.